Hello, about 5 p.m. I went to sleep 8 in the morning today and I woke up stupidly late. I wasn't able to get that dentist appointment, all the times were taken, so you try tomorrow. And earlier today I saw a video by Amazing Atheist, and it was about the Vegan Gains channel being terminated. And the news itself is a few days old, but this was the first time I saw it, so I missed it when it happened first. And I'm not going to go into Vegan Gains persona or content. If you are familiar with the channel, you can make your own. You can form your own opinions. But this case brought up one thing that's been kind of a problem on YouTube or in YouTube during the last times, and that's the terms of service and community guidelines. Those are constantly changing because they're trying to adapt to the content people are putting out, and that causes a problem. And actually it's a big problem if you are making something that has something to do with, let's say, politics or strong opinions, religion, whatever. And that's, let's take an example. You uploaded a video in 2013 and it was okay what comes to terms of service and community guidelines. It was okay. You uploaded another video in 2016 and it was okay what comes to TOS and community guidelines. You uploaded a video a month ago. It was okay. But they change. But what if they change the terms of service and community guidelines today? And all of those videos are not okay what comes to the current rules of the website. If YouTube's bot marks those videos in a time span of 3 months, you'll get 3 community strikes and you're out. So I do understand the reasoning behind it. So they're trying to get rid of unwanted content from the website, and that's why they are also hitting videos that are years old. They have been released years ago. But this brings out a problem what comes to community creators. Let's say that you are doing videos that are kind of controversial what comes to topics or content matter. Every time YouTube changes the rules, you have to go through all of your past videos to find out if there's something that's against the rules of the day and delete them or private them or something. And that's kind of, I don't know the right word for it, but in Finnish it would be paljon pyydetty, a lot to ask. And obviously if you're doing this kind of a safe content, then you're okay. But if you are in a kind of a gray area YouTuber, you have to go through all of your videos every time something changes. And I've seen videos taken down, and I've heard people talking about something that's, well, this comes to the kind of a chicken without a head style of YouTube's current actions. Let's say that you make a video and where you're criticizing something and you have valid points and you can back them up with facts. The YouTube terms of service are written with very vague language at some point, or there are parts that are very vague. So you're criticizing something or someone, you have valid points, you have facts to back them up and so forth, but still it can be considered as hate speech. So this is something I do understand why it is so, but let's not go into corporations and financial side of things. But that's weird. You can't, well, if this goes on, we can't talk about, the only things we can talk about are pretty much cats. let's put it this way, cat videos and snoring dogs. So where's the conversation? You can't have strong opinions anymore. Or, well, you can have strong opinions, but you have to be very, very careful what words to use when you're talking about those opinions. And it just feels weird. Or let's say that that's not the YouTube I signed in for years ago. And things are changing, we are changing. YouTube's trying to get rid of conspiracy theories and hate speech and racism and all that stuff, which is kind of, well, term racism is also something I really don't understand. Let's say that I'm a black person. I can use the N-word when talking about myself. That's not a problem, because but if someone else is using that word and they're not black, all of a sudden it's racism. No, it's a word. If it's allowed, it's allowed. If it's not allowed, it's not allowed. But that's a double standard right there. Camera died, and this is something I do very, very rarely. This is take 2 actually. I just did an 18-minute ramble that didn't make any sense. But what comes to what I was talking about in the previous clip, if you're black, you're allowed to use the N-word. If you're Jewish, well, you are allowed for some reason to throw Jew jokes around. If you're overweight, for some reason you can throw fatty jokes around. Think about this. Even if you have more gas than me, it doesn't make your fart jokes any better, any more acceptable, or any more unacceptable than mine. So we should be equal, but for some reason some want to be more equal than others. But I just watched Skaz's video that kinda triggered that almost 20-minute rambling rant. Well, it wasn't rant, it was rambling. Because of the language barrier, I kind of talked myself into a bundle that I wasn't able to get out. But he was talking about different conditions and how you shouldn't let those conditions define you. For example, let's say you have bad knees, you have neurological issues, your sexual orientation is not heterosexual, your religion is not kind of the standard. And what is standard? Well, that depends where you live and so forth. And you shouldn't let those kind of things define you. That was the message on that video. But when I'm thinking about myself, I mean, I have ADHD and I also have a minor brain damage that I was born with. Those things kinda define me in a sense that they are part of my personality, and those are also, or those are the reasons why there are certain things in my appearance that's visible to others. For example, if you watch my videos, I'm constantly, when I'm outdoors, I'm constantly moving my hat, or I'm rolling my eyes, or doing this. And that's called tick. And I'm not aware of those things, because those are something that has always been. I don't pay any attention to that stuff. But some people who are watching my videos who don't know me, they are thinking that I'm mentally handicapped. Like, no. That's, well, there are certain things that I would call limitations. For example, I don't have a driver's license because of my my inability to focus to more than, let's say, 2 things at a time. And if you're driving constantly, if there's someone behind you, what's on these sides, what's there, what's my speed, there are too many things to worry about. And that's why I never even wanted a driver's license. My parents told me when I was 18 that they can pay it if I want to have a driver's license, but I refused because I know myself. But with comes that's a thing that you shouldn't let things define you. Those things are still part of your self-image. And for example, with rolling my eyes and doing all this stuff, I don't care because I don't notice it. But other people will notice it. And that's when they are thinking that there's something wrong with me. For example, being mentally handicapped, that's not an illness. You're not sick. If you have a flu and you're mentally handicapped, then you're sick. But being mentally handicapped is not a sickness. It's not a disease on its own. And this is coming from a person who have spent 12 years among mentally handicapped people because of my work. So they're people. I mean, they have, for example, autistic people. I know I've known people who can't go outside unless they touch the mat on the porch 3 times. Or first they put on right leg foot shoe, then they put on their coat, and then left shoe. Well, at first it seems weird, and maybe you'll try to correct them, but that's their way of doing things. If you spend enough time with those people, you don't even care, or care is not the right word. You don't pay attention to that, because that's their way of doing things. And if you accept that they have their own way of doing things, then it kind of disappears. What comes with, if you're watching that, it disappears. But again, when someone comes in who's not experienced with these things, they'll notice it and they'll say it. So you shouldn't let something define you. Some people are kind of boasting, I don't know if that's the right word, certain parts about themselves. For example, their political opinions or their fate, which in my opinion should be personal, not something that you shove down other people's throats. But me and Christianity have never been the best possible friends. And all those things, and some people are doing it, and that's when we are having snowflakes. That's how snowflake is being born, in my opinion. Someone who's passionate about something, and that thing defines them. But now I'm sidetracking once again. But those things that shouldn't define you, and you're not letting them define you, other people will notice those things if they are something that's visible. And the picture that forms to them about you, even if they have never spoken with you, still there is this certain picture about you that they'll create through what they're seeing. So if you have this kind of a other people will watch, okay, that's dangerous, I don't trust that man. And I've seen it in person. I've been asked if I am mentally handicapped, or am I on a medication, or do I use drugs, or whatever, just because I'm sometimes rolling my eyes, making strange noises like or rolling my lips. Those are all things that I'm not even aware when I'm doing them. And that's why editing videos is sometimes a bit because then I'll see them. I can see what I'm doing on video, and that's sometimes gotta I wish I could control those things. Not because I care, but because I don't want to explain the same things over and over again. So now I sidetracked again pretty badly. But you should just find your own ways. If you have something like ADHD or other things, Asperger syndrome or something like that, you should find your own way to do things, because that makes things a whole lot easier. Don't even try to learn the way other people are doing things. Create your own way that feels natural to you. If you have a family member who's like that, let them find their own way, because it's useless trying to teach others how to do things just because the thing you're trying to teach or way you're trying to teach is the conventional way. That doesn't help anything. You're just creating frustration on both sides. I had this long speech that I kind of prepared in my mind in Finnish, but my real-time translator here is... But anyways, it's... Oh damn. It's almost 1 AM. Yay! So I have to get up in 6 hours. I'm trying to get that tooth fixed. And then, by the way, I'm not the only one who's doing things a bit oddly, I have to mention. My wife rushed out this morning. She had an appointment. She got there. Right time. Right place. Wrong date. That appointment was scheduled for tomorrow. Or today, I should say, because it's after midnight. So I'm not the only one who's doing things, who sometimes goofs up, if that's even a term. But still, I think I'll go to bed, because I can't think straight anymore. Hello, life 1. There will be no public vlog from yesterday, because I was sick as a dog. How can dog be sick? Well, anyway. So I just did this small short thing for myself and added that to my archives, or I have to add it to my archives. It's still on the camera, that file. But while being under the blankets with a tablet, I've spent the past 2 days watching documentaries about late 70s, early 80s synth music, and how it eventually turned into synth pop. And that's interesting stuff, because you have to remember that back in those days, the synths that, for example, Human League, Soft Cell, Depeche Mode in the beginning, the synths they were using were monophonic. So you were only able to play one note at a time. And if you wanted to play a chord, a simple 3-note chord, you needed 3 synths and 3 players in order to do it live, or if you were in a studio, you needed 3 tracks and then record each sound separately and then play them back all at once, and there's your chord. So that's why that music sounds, well, it sounds primitive by today's standards. If you're looking at it, those sounds are not, well, those sounds are definitely synthetic. But if you're listening to it, it sounds pretty complex. If you look at all the stuff that's happening in a song, it sounds pretty complex. And the reason is that they weren't able to play chords. They had to play broken chords. So if you wanted to play a chord, you had to play it one note at a time live, and that makes the thing sound as it sounds. Because, for example, if we take an example, you can strum a guitar, all the sounds almost at the same time, or you can pick each note at a time, and that's what they had to do with synths, and that makes it sound so, I don't know, it's mechanic, using drum machines and that. It's mechanic by nature, but it sounds lively because of those sounds are constantly on the move. It's not dee dee dee, it's dee 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 dee. because that's the way they had to do it. And since there weren't well, what's the right word again? Well, let's put it this way. Sequencers were around back in those days, but they were expensive. So now if we're thinking about guys in their late teens, in their early 20s, they had to play everything by hand in the studio. And that's the interesting part. You have to play everything by hand. So no sequencing, no looping, no nothing. Just play. And I started thinking about bass lines. If you want an 8-note bass line, well, nowadays it's easy to do, but back then, imagine a 4-minute song with constant 8-note bass line. You have to play every single note live onto the tape. And that's, I don't know, but just by thinking about it, my hand starts to hurt. And all this, but that's kind of fascinating because, well, I didn't know, I wasn't aware that they didn't had even a simple sequencers back then. So it was kind of weird to realize that that's how I do things. If I'm making electronic music, I don't use loops. I don't use sequencers in the traditional sense of the word. I play everything by hand. Even the drum parts. I don't use drum loops when I'm making electronic music. I actually play the drum parts, the bass drum and snare, through the whole song live, and then I'll add all the other things like toms and crashes and whatever afterwards. Does it takes more time? Yes, but once again, it's that hands-on feel. It's that kind of a craftsmanship feel that I want to maintain. Because for me, making music is not about clicking mouse. It's not about doing click, 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 click. But it has to be something physical. And I've even tried playing bass parts with an actual bass guitar, and then convert that audio to MIDI, and then add a bass synthesizer onto that. Well, obviously there are tricks that you have to use in order to get the exact MIDI notes. So that forces me to play more precisely, and obviously you have to use a bit more trebly sound, and you have to get the attack of the note, so that way the software will recognize that note. But that's fun again, in a sense that it's something that you do with your hands. There's that hands-on feel. And it took me a pretty long time to find the right kind of tone if I want to use an actual bass guitar. It took me a while to find the actual tone and what do I need to put, or what effects I need in order to the software to read the MIDI notes correctly. And I could do it again just by programming bass lines or playing them with a keyboard. But it's much more fun because after that you have the played bass line and you have the MIDI bass line, so you can combine those two. And it's kind of a, once again, this mad scientist thing. So now I'm on my way to Tokmanni once again. I need a new transformer. There's this electric star in my daughter's room, and the transformer of it busted, so there are those two prongs going into the wall socket. One of them is broken. It's bent and it's broken. So I have to try to find a new one. I already went to the one of the electric stores we have here, but they didn't have the right kind of transformer. Yes, I'm a bad vlogger and I know it. Instead of uploading yesterday's vlog, I ended up doing this. So DexZ, which is DX7 emulator, and JM1, which is a emulator of a Dream Lin drum machine. So here I go again on my own. I really should have edited and uploaded that vlog, but I got stuck with this, and it's, well, almost midnight. You might wonder, why am I not uploading my music to YouTube? I would like to, but what comes to YouTube's current copyright protection system, I really see no reason why. Because every day you see something that kind of pushes that thought aside, like nope. But I'm constantly looking for a platform where I could upload this stuff, maybe a Bandcamp profile or something like that. And what I'm currently doing is well, this is kind of a project that I started thinking about a week or two ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and I started doing this few days ago. So this is, I'm recording songs that I made when I was something like 16 to 25. So those were, when I was 16 I started playing, and I immediately started writing old songs. English hard today. Writing my own songs. Well, obviously I wrote songs before that, but with an actual instrument. It was cool. I never learned how to write songs with a keyboard, but guitar, when I got my first guitar, then it started. And I know that there are a lot of songs from those early years that my mom would like to hear, because quite often I kind of surprised her when she was spying on me, I mean listening through the door what I was doing, because back then I was writing in Finnish, so she was able to understand what I was singing. My mom knows few phrases of English, a couple of words, and that's it. She doesn't understand it at all. So I thought that it would be nice to make this kind of the small, kind of something like 5 or 6 songs maybe from those early years. And the reason why I'm doing this is that I started thinking about, well, about a year ago, maybe a bit less, I started thinking about time and how years are going by, and if everything goes well and I live long life, me, like all of us, will be an adult orphan in the future, because we are the ones who will bury the ones who came before us. And I wanted to do this project before kind of years slip by and then it's too late. So I wanted to do this now. And these songs are very easy to make or record, because back then I obviously wasn't able to play all that well, so the songs were simple. And I was playing guitar in my room, and I was imagining drums and keyboards and whatever in my head. So these are easy to do. There aren't all that many chords, or even if there are, the arrangements are not difficult. So this is kind of an easy thing to do. What comes to backing tracks, the hard part starts with vocals. My vocal range was a bit higher back then, and I wanted to kind of maintain that voice of a young guy in his late teens. I wanted to maintain that voice, not in that key definitely, but I want something, you know, from those years to push through, kind of adding with the songs. So this is easy to do right now, but when the vocals start, that's when it gets pretty hellish, because I'm a perfectionist what comes to singing. Not pitch, that's not, even if it's close enough, it's close enough, but feel and that emotion that comes through, I'm a bit of a perfectionist with that. The tune or pitch can be a bit wobbly, but if there's no emotion behind the words, then those words are basically just empty. empty words what comes to me singing. So there has to be something that pushes through and catches the listener. But right now what I'm doing, this is easy stuff. And then I also have to record some guitar tracks, and once again that's not a problem because I can do it using a amp sims. And I don't want to polish this thing too much. I want it to sound like a guy with a 4-track recorder in his room. Although I never owned a cassette 4-tracker when I was young. I started with a digital 8-track recorder. But I want this thing to sound like something that a young person could do in his or her bedroom. So that's why I'm not polishing things too much, and that's why I'm using this Lin clone drum machine. So I can have that kind of a homemade feel, because obviously I could make a kind of a real sounding drums and so forth, but I want this thing to be amateurish in a good way. So maybe I should upload this thing, although it's quite possible that I'm doing this stuff 3 hours or 4 hours from now. Hopefully not. Hopefully I forget to go to bed at some point, and hopefully I remember to upload these. What do you mean family's been sick and no one's done the dishes? Let's get this day officially rolling. Hello. That previous clip, stupidly early in the morning. I crawled to bed, it was about 4 AM. Woke up less than 3 hours later like a speed freak. Like, hello! And now I'm crashing down again. What I did was that I was playing around with different kinds of soft synths or VST synths, just playing something. And when I found something that sounds meaningful, I saved it as an individual project. And that's how I've always done when making electronic music. Although my experience when it comes to making like full-fledged out electronic songs is relatively limited, but still. And I call it raw material mining. That's something I do in another form when writing songs with these kind of traditional tools. But I just play something, and when I find something that I save it, and that way I'll end up with a handful of projects all going to different directions. So then I can work on something, and if that song or that project turns out to be a dead end, and it's not if, it's when, I'll abandon that thing, but I don't delete it, because there's always something I can use in other songs, like bass lines or pad sounds, melodies, something like that. So it's about recycling things. I never delete anything unless it's complete horse manure. But that's pretty much been my life for the last few days. Obviously I was sick one day, but rest of the days kind of a and it must be looking pretty funny when looking it through my wife's eyes, for example. Just guy sitting in his dungeon, just ding ding ding, and then all of a sudden found it. Like, what? And because she can't hear what I'm playing because I'm wearing headphones, so it's like tick 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 up. And if you have watched this far, congrats once again. These days have been so broken what comes to schedules, and I mean uploading schedules and living schedules in life and so forth. So I decided to just dump all this material into one video and then move on move on tomorrow with these daily videos. But it's been not all that bit, it's been more than a bit of a hassle during the last about week or so. So sleep management, what's that? Schedule management, well, kinda in place with the exception of these vlogs, and everything else is hanging there. But that's something when you're doing, well, if you do something that's kind of a creative work or creative thing, when you're in the zone, you don't want to get out, or you don't want anything to pull you out from it. And that's why these vlogs are, well, late or broken or whatever, because I've been doing music non-stop. Even when I was sleeping, I mean, last night I was dreaming about FM synthesis. That means that we're in a pretty hardcore trail at the moment. Although I tried to learn the basics of how to program a DX7 synth. Well, now I understand why people used the factory presets during the 80s. With few exceptions, but most of the tones you're hearing on different albums that are coming from DX7 are factory presets. That thing is a bitch to program. I mean, like an actual analog synth, that's relatively easy if you have this kind of a big, well, old school synthesizer with all the knobs, even if it is a VST. But that's still pretty easy to program. That's pretty easy to adjust. But trying to adjust a deck set, which is a DX7 emulator, I did some search what comes to how to program that thing, and if you know how to do it, well, good for you. But when I tried to learn, even grab the basics of it, it was like, what the? Okay. So I have a few custom sounds or a few custom patches that I've made, but nothing special. Nothing special yet, pretty much just tweaking the already existing custom patches that people have uploaded to the internet. So, but that's exciting new territory for me. What I'm doing right now, basically, it's like 80s pop meets dark synth. And synthwave is a form of music I've always liked, mostly because of my father. I mean, he's a synth freak. What comes to listening music, I mean, I remember the countless times we were driving in his car and he was playing these greatest synthesizer hits, well, whatever, constantly. So I like those sounds, I like those tones, and I like the idea that it doesn't have to be traditional, because I played in bands for years. I mean, actually now it's easy to say that I've played in bands for decades. So doing something that doesn't limit you the same way as a traditional band form limits you what you can do. It's kind of a refreshing, but at the same time I only know the basics how to do things. Something more advanced I have to learn. So it's fun stuff to do, but it's also pretty frustrating because I only know the basics when it comes to creating synth music. So, and I wish that I'd own an electric drum set, but I don't have that, or even a bigger kind of a synth pad that I could hit with sticks, because programming drums has always been my hard part. I'm not a drummer. I can program basic beats, just basic steady beats, that's easy, but then all the fills and all the nuances, those are something I have to kind of learn as I go. And it's, well, as I said, frustrating but rewarding at the same time currently. And now I think I have something like 15 ideas, and the goal is to, from those 15, the goal is to make 5 finished tracks. Maybe I'll make it, maybe I don't, but that's the master plan at the moment. It's 4:30 again, and yes, I know. See ya.